the Kleen-Rite Master Class on video surveillance. My name is David Diehl, and this is Turbo Wash DVR. So the main thing I want to cover today is going through the top 3 reasons as to how you can protect your wash and making sure that your asset is protected. So starting out, I just want to walk through a couple of things here that are super important. And getting started, I'm just going to show you a couple of clips from actual operators around the country and some of the different things that they've had in the past as far as situations or occurrences and how video is able to protect them and some of the things they're able to do to be able to operate more efficiently, more effectively, and making sure that they're covering, again, covering their asset. So this first video is, if any of you know Jerry Nix, he had a couple that was working for him. They were 70 years old, and this occurrence happened, and it was crazy because, I mean, you're catching this live, right? I mean, this is, I guess it's a little bit behind here. Hold on, it'll pop up here in a second. But yeah, this situation was super unfortunate. The couple did get hurt, and they ended up quitting working at the wash after this. They got to slow down a little bit. It looks like there's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, as you can see, the wife there is just working in the background. Now, if you're the wash owner and you're seeing this, this is definitely something that you'd hope you'd never see on your surveillance system. However, because they caught this and they caught the license plate, they were able to prosecute, which again was definitely a good thing. But yeah, I mean, this poor couple, they went through the ringer here, and I think one of the main things to keep in consideration when it comes to, operating a car wash is you have many different circumstances that play in that sometimes aren't the best. And so if you can protect, give your customers a little bit more added security by having, good lighting or cameras or an alarm system or something like that, then it definitely makes a big difference. As you can see here, the girlfriend is trying to calm the boy down and get him back in the car. Eventually, he comes back after her and pushes her over. The next clip we're going to look at is of a vac island and a guy trying to break into the vac island. And this will pop up on your screen here shortly. I don't know if anybody's had issues with people trying to break into their vacuums, but we definitely have here at my dad's car wash in Utah. And having an alarm system attached to that usually triggers the siren and gets people to run away. But it's issues again that many car wash operators have faced. It's a perfect opportunity for crime, especially if it's not very well lit or anything like that, for sure. This next one's one of my favorites. This guy is breaking into the equipment room. He's got a grinder. Tom, that's super unfortunate, man. It definitely happens. As you hear different stories, being in this side of the industry, you definitely hear different stories of damage and things that go on. So, I mean, this guy just cracks me up, though. He's got his grinder, goes to work on the lock, ends up breaking into the equipment room. And again, if you're looking at the timestamps, like these are all within the last few years. We're going to get into a couple more of some stuff that's happened, here locally in Utah that absolutely shocks and surprises me as to, how this could even happen. Anyway, he eventually gets the lock off. And now he's getting in, trying to pop the door open. Going through, kicks the lights on, getting into the cash box. But the interesting thing to look at is as soon as the alarm triggers, these guys are out of there. And there they go. So again, having some of these different types of, video surveillance or good lighting or alarms, it's not necessarily going to keep things from happening, but it's going to be a big deterrent. And it's going to help you at least know what's going on. This next one is a bay fire. The person sprayed some engine degreaser on the motor, and it ended up catching it on fire just because it was hot. Up in flames. It really is crazy the things that happen at different washes around the country. Just anything from the random to car accidents. This next video that's going to play, and we'll just play part of it here. But it's actually a car accident that was staged. And if you look up at the top right, there's a vehicle that's going to enter the screen. He runs into the barrier there. The bumper's already broken, but the idea of what he was trying to do here was stage an accident, making it look like it happened at the car wash. And then his plan was to go claim insurance and blame it on the car wash. So you got the employee here hanging up hoses and stuff, but he doesn't really catch what's going on. He walks away, and then this car ends up backing up more, ramming over these barriers, causing more damage to the vehicle. And then this is where it gets super interesting. He's got an accomplice. And he's going to start pulling parts out of the vehicle and placing them on the ground to stage the accident. So obviously, because this was on camera, the scenario turned out good for the car wash owner and operator, because they knew it was a staged accident. It just makes you wonder sometimes what people are thinking and what they go through, in their own personal lives. But it just never ceases to amaze me, some of the things that we see, like I keep mentioning. Yeah, it really is bizarre, Jeff. It's crazy. Okay, so this next one is just a couple of pictures. As you can see at the top left there, a customer's getting some change out of the changer. Sees a guy in the background, ends up feeling threatened, so he pulls a gun on him. The scenario turned out okay. Nothing major came from it, but again, it's just being able to capture what's happening at your wash. I don't know, about many of you or how far away you live. From my dad's wash, he's about 15 minutes away. I'm about 45 minutes away from the wash. And so having video surveillance really gives you an edge, because you can see what's going on without having to be there. If you don't have an employee there 24/7 or anything like that, it really does give you an advantage, because you can see what's going on. Okay, so this next one is a clip, or just a picture from our wash here in Utah. This guy was trying to string the changer and didn't have so much luck. We did post a wanted poster for this guy, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, he luckily in this case he didn't really get too much, but a great face shot of him. Again, going back to the vac islands, these next two pictures is, again, somebody trying to break into the vac islands. But these ones do have some sensors on them. And so as soon as he broke into the door, it triggered the sensor, and the alarm went off. And we've got a big siren that is attached to it as well. And so that was able to trigger. I'd be curious to see, just anybody who is on, how many people have had issues with vandalism on their wash. Feel free to jump in on the comments, and just you can share your experience too. But I think it's maybe more surprising than you would imagine, of the different types of vandalism and things that happen on a consistent basis. Okay, so this next one's super interesting. So you top left, obviously see the cops trying to see what this guy's doing. So the bottom right, my dad's sitting at his home office, and he's got his cameras up, and he sees this guy, and he's unstringing wire. And first thought is, okay, well, where's this wire coming from? Is it coming from the car wash? And what's happening? What's going on? So he ends up calling the police department. They show up. They're able to jump on it and see what's going on. This scenario, they end up calling my dad back, and they just say, hey, you know what? This guy claimed he got it from his work, and he was just, unstringing the wire so he could go and sell it. Super interesting. Again, people are nuts. I think we've all learned that by now. Okay, looks like we've got a couple of questions. So yeah, Jev, there definitely are some different methods out there to stop a lot of that stringing. It doesn't seem like it happens near as much as it did. This next clip, though, is one that I think many of you are going to also be surprised about. I don't know if anybody's really heard about it around. And so as soon as the screen shows, I'll let that clip run. But as for Vic, question on the 4K type, yes. Quality has definitely gone up exponentially. I'll get into some of the details here in just a few minutes, as far as what those systems look like and what the compatibility is. So that question will be answered here shortly. And yeah, pretty much a weekly, if not daily, at least in a small way. Yep, so true. Okay, so this video just absolutely cracks me up. It's funny now, but it wasn't so funny at the time. Um, this guy rolls up on his little scooter, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with an EMP device. I think the only time I'd ever heard of an EMP was like Ocean's 12 when they were, trying to hack into the casino. But it's a little device that basically sends an electronic pulse into, whatever electronic it is. In this case, he put it in a changer, and it ended up totally messing with the electronics of the changer, and then it just started dispersing coins. He ended up getting $1,200 out of the changer. At this time, we ended up putting up a wanted poster, and some friends ended up turning him in. Checks, first of all, he's checking to see. This is broad daylight, middle of the day. I mean, you just wouldn't expect something like this to happen. It was, again, not quite as busy of a day as you can see the wash in the lot there. But here he goes. He pulls out his device. Jev, you're right. I think that's really what it comes down to, just stupidity. But, a lot of it comes from being desperate. And anything now, with all the stuff that's going on with Corona and the world and economy and everything else, I think I wouldn't be surprised if more stuff started to happen just because people are starting to get more desperate. Now, that being said, there's a lot of industries that are still doing well, but I think there's a lot of people that are feeling the panic of it all. So yeah, anyway, he starts getting coins out of the changer. This next one is just an overhead view of the cameras. And it'll show the coins start dropping out. They do. Jeff, you're exactly right. They do act like they own the place, and they just, I mean, it's crazy. Broad daylight, middle of the day, not too many people around, but that's State Street in the background, so a super busy road. But again, I mean, from the outsider's perspective, it just looks like he's, put money in. So the funny thing too is you'll see here there was actually a bill that was jammed, and so when his EMP went off, it was able to free the jam, but then the coin started to dispense out. So one thing to take note on this, my dad called Pat over at Roe, and they said that this was not an issue. They were familiar with it, but there are ways to overcome that now. They've come out with basically like a firmware upgrade, and it was able to take care of the problem. And so if anybody ever has any issues like that, just make sure to reach out and get covered before that actually happens. But yeah, super crazy. Let's see, it was the Roe found out the issue. Oh, sorry, Chuck, not Pat. Chuck had it fixed, the firmware issue. This was on a Roe RL400 that this occurred on, and like I say, after my dad called Chuck, they were able to get it all figured out and taken care of. But super interesting. That EMP thing I'd never heard about, especially in car wash application or really any other areas. I had a vending business for a while, and I'd had some issues with people trying to vandalize and do some things. But yeah, the EMP thing was a new one for me. Sorry, this is going to jump around a little bit. I had to go back to my notes here to see what the story was. But here in a second, the reward poster will pop up, and so the end of this story actually turned out pretty cool. We posted this reward, and it wasn't too long later that some friends of this guy, or the knew him, acquaintances, whatever you want to call him, knew him, and so we were able to get a hold of him. The police tracked him down. The tough thing was, as far as the police department goes, and I think every agency is probably different, when it first started out, they were giving us a little bit of a hard time trying to catch this guy and prosecute him. For whatever reason, it ended up going, my dad took it all the way up to I believe the chief there at that station, and they were able to get it resolved, and it took almost 9 months to a year, and he received a check from the courts, and from that point, he was able to get paid that $1,200 back, but we didn't think we'd ever see it again. But yeah, I mean, the system worked. It took a little longer than we'd hoped. We had to go through some hoops, but in this case, it was able to get taken care of. Carlos, as far as the EMP issue happening anywhere else, I don't know. I haven't heard of anything. I don't know if anybody, any other operators out there have, or Kleen-Rite has. If anybody has, feel free to jump in and comment. But it was kind of a one-off deal. I don't know. He said he had gotten the device from a friend. And when the police first showed up to his house, he claimed he didn't have it anymore. He gave it back to his friend. But no, I mean, I haven't really heard too much of that happening anywhere else. But it's just kind of scary to know that those types of devices are out there, and that there's that possibility. Okay, so moving on to the presentation here a little bit more. One of the, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's really three types of components that you can use to really utilize and help protect your car wash. As we continue to develop and we continue to have more crime and different things like that. So the first thing is having an alarm system. There's lots of different types of alarm systems out there. I'm going to cover a couple. Lights, making sure you've got good lighting, and then obviously video. That helps a lot as well. Jumping into the alarm side of things, I'm sure many of you have systems out there. If you haven't, and some of the reason why you haven't decided to get an alarm system is because of cost, or you're not sure what to do to go monitoring, or any of those types of questions. That's totally understandable. We have a combination of a DIY kit with some remote monitoring as well. So when this next slide pops up here, it'll walk you through. Okay, here we go. So yeah, panels range from pro panels to DIY. You can have different alerts sent via your phone, text message, have sirens and flashing lights, and then that can also be monitored. As you can see the little screen up there, that's one of the text messages that comes through whenever something's triggered on the alarm. Really nice. And the top picture up there is a big siren. That thing is loud too. I've set that alarm off a couple of times on accident, and boy, you're gonna know for a good radius that that the alarm's going off and something's not right. When it comes to lighting, this is a huge component as well, especially if you have certain bays or certain parts of your lot that are a little bit darker than others. I think it allures some of that maybe not so great behavior, of thieves and just people looking to cause some trouble. Whereas if you've got a lot of light, lighting up your bays, and with LED lighting now, it's super inexpensive as far as cost, for your power bill. And even the lighting has become a lot more cost effective. If you take a look at the bay on the right, that's all LED. You've got big, long lighting tracks there. And then you look at the bay on the left, you've got the one light. Major difference in how dark and how well lit up and covered the area is. Also, it helps with your camera pictures, right? More light that you've got, the better the resolution and the picture that'll come through on the camera. And then it also, again, it provides a little bit of a safer environment for your customers. I don't know if anybody else has been in a dark place, but sometimes it can be a little scary. You might be looking over your shoulder, you don't know what's going on, but if it's more well lit up, it just makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. When it comes to video, as mentioned earlier, Vic, I think it was you asked about quality types. So when it comes to cameras are fantastic quality now. You've got a lot in the 2 megapixel range, which is basically a conversion of a 1080p. And then you've got 4K and even 8 megapixel cameras now. So 5 megapixel, 2 to 5 is that 1080 range, and an 8 megapixels is a 4K. And you can see the quality on these pictures is just phenomenal. My dad's been in this industry now for well over 20 years. When he first started trying to get into finding a system, that's how it all started. Is he was looking for a system for himself for his car wash, and there was nothing really out there. So he started putting pieces together and eventually created his own system. And then things just from there have been able to grow into an amazing relationship with Kleen-Rite, and being able to take care of customers, many of you who are on here, I'm sure, around the country. And it's been just such a wild ride from a technology standpoint. I got started with my dad right at the beginning, And, there's a few years where I'd gone off and done some of my own stuff, and coming back, into it the last little while, it's amazing the quality of recording from your DVR to the camera picture to everything else. It's increased so very much. And so, and also the pricing, right? Because tech is so good out there now, the pricing on a lot of this stuff has been able to change and drop a little bit too. Okay, so let's really jump into the nuts and bolts here of the video surveillance. I'm sure that's what most of you are on here waiting to hear. But I like starting out with some of those stories in the beginning just to show, what's really happening in the industry, what's going on, and then, jumping in now to the cameras and some of the solutions to fixing those problems. So benefits of video surveillance, again, it's going to be able to protect your property. It'll protect your cash. If you've got, a camera in the equipment room, you can see what's going on in your changers and, as you're counting and sorting and all that good stuff. It really gives you a little bit more peace of mind because you know what's happening. Again, you can see what's going on with your customers. And then it gives you more peace of mind because when it comes to a maintenance standpoint, you can keep an eye on what's going on in your wash on a day-to-day basis. The liability side also, there's definitely some benefit to it. Sometimes your insurance rates will change based on if you have a surveillance system or an alarm system. Your automatics, I know those of you that have automatics, seems like there's always some sort of an issue or some type of complaint, and being able to have good coverage, it just gives you, again, that record to go back and really see what occurred. And then equipment damage, if you have somebody that crashes into a building or, just whatever the case is, you've got that on record, what's happened to your equipment. Whereas, without a system, you're going to have a hard time keeping tabs on that kind of stuff unless you've got, employee or you yourself are down there. And then again, injuries and slips and falls and things like that. One of the things that, we actually had, I believe it was our sheriff's department, when we were trying to prosecute somebody at one point, and it was for dumping. I don't know if anybody has dumping issues, but, we had some dumping issues there for a while, just on the lot and in the bays. And so they ended up wanting us to actually post it, and that made it so, okay, now we can prosecute. So, making sure that you're just on top of everything in that kind of capacity. Signage is a big deal for sure. If it's posted, then you've got a much more likelihood to be able to, have some sort of resolve come from it. Again, the next thing here is just giving you that bird's eye view and that perspective of what's going on at your wash, and being able to maintain an idea of having a pulse on it, right? I mean, if you think of checking a pulse, your own pulse, if you've got it monitored, then things are in check and things are looking good. Where if you don't really have a pulse, or you're having to do these, last minute wash checks and things like that, it can get kind of overwhelming sometimes. So, you get that alert in the middle of the night that something's wrong, and you have to drive down there because you can't really see, and maybe it's just a false alarm or false trigger. Having a system really makes a big difference. Again, the equipment, the bill changers, the bays, this bottom left picture, this guy is down here. My dad, again, he's at his home office and he's on his computer, and he sees the cameras, and this guy's just unloading his entire truck, and it was a fairly busy day that day. So he ends up driving down because he sees this, and the guy had been there for probably 45 minutes or so by the time he got there. And he was just like, hey man, look, I understand you want to wash your car and you're trying to clean stuff up, but you're tying up my bay, and that's costing me money, and you're not, paying for the bay right now. And so, he was able to get it worked out with him, but he was able to catch it where, in order for our washes to run as efficiently as possible, you've got to be driving traffic through it. And if your traffic is being delayed by, again, funny people doing whatever it is that they have in their mind that they're wanting to do, then it causes, a major glitch in your process and your efficiency in how you're running your wash to the best capacity. Again, coming back to the vandal aspect, garbage cans, dumpsters, vacuums, equipment rooms, these are all major target points that these vandals go after as well. A lot of times the dumpsters aren't covered by a camera or nobody really pays attention to them. But I don't know how many times, we've had the dumpster unlocked and left open, and it just, yeah, I mean, it doesn't work to have that stuff not covered. And so being able to have a bird's eye view and know what's going on makes a big difference. Another thing to mention is most vandalism starts from people feeling like they got ripped off. I think we've all had those moments of just that emotional connection, and it kind of throws off, what we normally would do. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it happens, right? Looks like there's a Lucky Coin Car Wash. Do you have talk feature through the camera? On these wired cameras, not so much. I know that some of the wireless ones do have that functionality, like a Ring doorbell camera or something like that. There is definitely some of that functionality, but this specific system does not. Or at least with these cameras that we're operating with, does not. Okay, so let's look at this from a discovery standpoint as well when it comes to troubleshooting issues at your wash. So first of all, having a camera system, you're able to discover, hey, look, there's a problem. And then you're able to really get to the root of the problem. Did it just happen on its own? Was it a customer related? Was it an equipment malfunction? Was your changer working properly? These are all things that we need to take into consideration, as we're going through, and being able to monitor that really does make a big difference. So from a monitoring standpoint, coming back to your, your question on the talk feature, remote monitoring is a huge thing, again, that's gotten better over time. And I think now we're at a stage where the tech's gotten so good that it's so easy. Most everybody has a smartphone now, or they have a computer that they can look at. And so that's the beauty of these systems now, is you've got fantastic quality. You can remote monitor from anywhere. You be at your home, office, anywhere, smartphone, tablet, computer, and you've got, again, amazing function that you're watching live. You've got search functionality. If you have an issue and you've got to send that clip to somebody really quick, it's really easy to do it, even if you're just on your phone. I was helping a customer the other day with my dad that was asking how to get the recording, and I was like, man, well, with the screen functionality or the screencasting functionality on an iPhone, all you have to do is screencast the phone recording as it's playing, and you've got your recording, right? And then you can send it in a text message, an email, drop it in a Dropbox, whatever suits your fancy, or put it on a flash drive. Okay, so again, going back to the maintenance, I know many of you out there, I'm sure, have had issues with the maintenance side, and again, tracking problems and making sure that you're, how did it happen? How did it start? Was it a customer related? Was it equipment related? Wintertime, for those of you that are in winter climates, was the wash plowed? Was the lot plowed? Is there ice in the bays? That's a big issue we have here in Utah, is we get a lot of ice on the bay walls. And I don't know, those who understand the winter conditions, I know how thick that ice can get, and that can cause a major issue. But yeah, I mean, being able to look at your camera and monitor, hey, look, there's ice buildup on the wall. It's getting pretty thick. Better get down there and chip it off, or see what I can do. Maybe there's a warm day and we can get rid of that so we don't cause a problem, have that tip over on somebody. Did the lights kick on at night? Is the dumpster locked and emptied? When was your help and your employees there? And then again, cutting down on those check out the wash trips. I know growing up, before we had cameras, that was a very consistent thing, right? We'd always run down to the wash, and I always loved it going with my dad being a little kid. But it just gives you more peace of mind and a better sense of what's happening, and a better pulse on what's going on at your locations. Again, I think the big thing to note here, this isn't going to stop all your problems, and it's not going to catch all the problems, but it's an effective tool to limit problems and help manage and protecting your wash. So major benefits and things to keep in mind as we're going through. Okay, so let's jump into the types of systems that are available out there now on the market, and then also what we're working with. So really, you've got two types of systems. If any of you are familiar, you've got the IP system, which is run through Cat5, and it's more of a networking type solution. Um, these can have really good capabilities. Going back to Lucky Coin there, um, I'd imagine that a lot of these IP system have some of that functionality with the voiceover or the talk feature. Um, but one of the biggest issues with it is you've got to have a really good background in networking. If you have some sort of a power failure or something and those cameras go out, each camera has its own IP address, and they've got proprietary formats. They're more expensive, and so yeah, if one of those power glitch or something like that, your cameras are going to go down, and you're going to have to go reconnect everything and make sure everything's functioning properly. The benefit, however, a couple of benefits is you can go over 32 channel systems, so 32 cameras. If you're 32 or more, you can IP pretty much as many as you want in there. And then your power, it's just one cord, so your power over your Ethernet cable. So it makes again a big difference in that set. Cat 5 or Cat 6 cable, again it's just Ethernet. So that's the IP system. So what we found is really the best bang for your buck, what you're going to get, the best value out and the best pricing is going with the analog HD. So again, coming back to quality, right? I think that's the biggest question that many of you on here have is what type of quality is it? Is it going to compare? Am I going to have a good picture? Can I get good license plates? Like that's really, I think, what we're after. And again, that comes down to just the camera and then the DVR itself, being able to have the right formatting to get good quality, and that by default now has become so good. So again, the DVR is just the box. That's what records everything. Usually we'll put in a 6 or a 12 terabyte drive, and so you get a lot of recording out of there. We'll get into those specs here in a second. But again, these cameras are just run on coax cable. Super simple, easy install. You just cut your coax end, and then your power ends goes into a power supply box for your power to your cameras, and it's again fairly intuitive, fairly DIY. Formats are supported pretty much everything at this point now: AHD, TVI, CVI, EX, SDI, SDI, and the CVBS, which is basically an old high-res format. So again, if somebody has an existing system out there or existing cameras, a lot of this stuff will be compatible, and you can use existing lines. Again, we're just talking, you may want to check your terminations on your power ends and even your coax end to make sure there's no buildup or corrosion or anything like that going on. Again, so 1080p, 4 megapixel, 4K, and then the CVBS analog, H.265 compression, and again, it's just better compatibility. You can use existing stuff. It's less expensive, easy setup. You don't have to have a networking background or anything like that, and you can use existing high-res cameras. Con, it's limited to 32 channel, but again, if you have a system that's that big, you can run two DVRs simultaneously, and that's not an issue. So when it comes to cameras, this is a big question we get a lot of the time too. What type of cameras are out there? What do they look like? How do they mount? And really, you've got a couple different variations, and we'll go through and I'll show you some of the different pictures to what those cameras look like. So first of all, you've got the eyeball dome. That's probably the most popular. It's the most, I'd say, secure as far as the mounting process goes. And it just looks really clean and really nice. You've got a bullet camera, a board camera, a door view camera, and a box camera. And again, we'll go through and we'll look at some of these top cameras and what they look like. And then I'll show you a layout as well of our car wash and what it looks like and where cameras are placed. Again, stuff that we'll be able to walk through with you if you've had questions about this. More than happy to do a demo and walk you through, again, placement of what that would look like with your car wash and with your lot. Okay, so this first one here, our eyeball dome camera. Again, I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I've got the shiny object syndrome, right? Jumping between screens and my screen's not catching up, but that's okay. Okay, so car wash environment mainly use, again, this is the most clean. It looks really nice, very secure in the mounting process. It's vandal resistant, waterproof, rotating axis, so you can move your camera everywhere for your aiming and setup. 2.8 megapixel wide angle fixed lens, 2.7 to 13.5 millimeter motorized zoom and autofocus lens, and the night vision. The night vision, I mean, that always excites me because back in the day, it took everything to try and get a good picture at night. But with these IR now, the IR functionality, it's just gotten amazing. And then again, the LED lights, you can light your wash up like a Christmas tree, have a killer picture, and be able to know what's going on, even if it's a really dark, pitch black night. The bullet cameras, as far as bullet cameras go, this basically is your license plate camera, and then we also have the little lipstick camera. We don't sell quite as many of those anymore, just because, again, those Vandal domes are just so solid and they work pretty much in every application. But these license plate cameras come in more of like a bullet type look and design, and a lot of times those are up higher, so it's not going to be something that somebody's just going to reach up and grab. And the one benefit to these bullet cameras, especially on the license plate side, why it works so well, the motion in nighttime use is different than the dome camera because of the shutter speed changes. And so you just get a better quality picture. That car's moving a little bit faster, so sometimes your shutter's got to be working better and more active and faster to be able to catch what's going on as that car's moving through. We've got a back alleyway where people exit, and so we're hitting them pretty much from all sides, from the bay, from the front, from the back. But having that license plate picture, it's a great quality, and it's catching them. If nothing else worked up to that point. The one downside to it is it's a less secure mount, as you can see. But at the same time, like I say, usually these are mounted up higher, and so it doesn't really matter too much. And then, the board camera, this is more of a covert or an indoor application, just a small little square camera. Great. I mean, it has its applications, but like I say, I think the majority of what people are installing are these license plate bullet cameras and the dome cameras. So that's the board camera there. Okay, so now we're getting to the point where you're trying to decide, how do I start? What are the next steps? How do I get my wash set up? Or, hey, I have an existing system. What does that look like? And really, I think the main points that we're looking at here in the beginning are, let's look and see what you want to see. What are the things that are most important to you to see? This will also depend on what size system you get. We've got 4-channel systems, and the channel just means how many inputs there are for cameras. So we've got a 4-channel, we've got an 8-channel, and a 16-channel, and a 32-channel. So a lot of different variations. I'd say the most popular is probably the 16-channel. But again, it's just deciding what you want to see, which will determine the camera placement, and then also the DVR placement. And again, like we're here to help you draft your plan specific to your location to make sure that you're getting the best coverage and making sure everything's going to work properly before you go to install it. And again, the DVR placement, you've got to have preferably inside something that is away from a water source. It's not going to, I mean, the DVR is like a computer, right? You got to protect it as much as possible, but the cameras and stuff, they're built to last. They withstand quite a bit of a bit of the elements for sure. All right, so I'll give you kind of an overview of what our wash here in Utah looks like, and placement of cameras and how everything goes there. And then I'll wrap up and we'll answer a few questions, and feel free to answer or ask any questions you've got as I'm going through too. You know, if you have a system, if you don't have a system, if you're thinking about it, whatever questions you have, drop them in the chat here. And if I don't get to them right now, I'll get to them here in the next couple of minutes, and you know, we'll be there as well. So, and I can answer those questions. Okay, so this is the front of our wash, and this is you know, gives you kind of a layout as to how everything's set up, the vac islands, the bays, the equipment room, all that good stuff. And then our next picture here is going to show you the setup of it, and placement of cameras. You'd think by the end of this presentation I'd have my lag timed out. I definitely don't. So yeah, I'm not the best presenter, but hey, I like cameras and I know how this stuff works, so I guess that's a plus. Okay, so take a look at the wash here. This is the bird's eye view. And you know, again, this goes back to how we'll help you do your placement. So red, there's bay cameras. Each bay has one. Blue is your lot camera, and you can see the different pinpoints there on the lot. Change your camera, license plate camera, vendor cameras, equipment room. You can kind of see the placement and the lines broken down as well. Jev, hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, nice. New owner. Congratulations. Canada. Awesome. I spent some time up in Toronto, Canada. Love it. Love Canada. It's a great place. If I wasn't in Utah or the US, I'd probably be in Canada. And thank you for those comments. Okay, so let's take a look at these different bays that we've got here as well. Basically run through some of the different applications. We'll look at the cameras, what they're actually seeing. So you get the bird's eye view here, and then we'll drop into each bay and what's going on. I think a big thing to notice too, you know, as that slide was changing, looking at the lot, you know, a lot of times, again, like I mentioned earlier, the dumpster and some of those outline areas aren't really covered, but because these cameras are so good now, they can give you a pretty good range. Vancouver. Yep, that's a cool place. Really cool place. Been up there a few times. Okay, so looking at bays, right? So this is in the bay. You can see license plates pretty well in each of these bays. I mean, it covers the entire bay. You can see exactly what's going on with the equipment, what people are up to, and it gives you a really good range. You can see your timer. You can see your card machine, your card reader there. Yeah, so I mean, it gives you great coverage. You can see, you know, if you've got maintenance issues or anything like that, being able to keep track of everything. Again, moving through, you know, those that have the floor mat station or, you know, the blowers. Again, it just gives you a very good range, and you can see each of these bays. You can pretty much pull a license plate from it. You can zoom in a little bit and even capture it, but it's got a fantastic picture. And every once in a while, you know, again, another question that pops up is, you know, how often do I have to clean the lens? And really, it just depends on the application, but they can go away, you know, go quite a while. And as long as you've got it up a little bit higher, you know, you're going to have a little bit less water getting on it. Because really what happens, right, it's more so hard water or spots that start to build up. But if you take a little alcohol wipe, you can go through and wipe them down. And again, I think each wash is different, but you could do that every 6 months to a year or longer, and you'd probably get away okay with it. Rick, as far as your motion question, I like saying it to motion, and basically that'll trigger an event. When these systems go out, we usually set them up to be recorded based on, you know, an event, which is a motion type of application. So as soon as it triggers, and you know, again, each camera, a lot of people ask, you know, is that functionality wise on the cameras or DVR? The DVR will actually do the input on that. So I don't know. I think, you know, again, just as a standard, we usually use the motion. That way, you're not chunking through your hard drive. recording stuff that doesn't really matter. Because I mean, that motion's really sensitive, and so it'll pick up, even if the wind's blowing and a hose is moving back and forth, sometimes it'll trigger the motion. And so I think it'll catch pretty much everything you need and not give you too much trouble. Changers. Again, the quality on these cameras has just gotten so good that you can pick up just fantastic quality on, even facial recognition. This one coming up here will show the guy's shirt and it says his name on it, and you can read his name tag. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing what the tech's done over the last few years. So I'll kind of move through these pictures a little quicker here, but it just gives you kind of an idea as to what the layout looks like. Front of the wash, vac islands, above the changers, above the vendors, in the equipment room, what the full system looks like, and then some of the mounting. Mounting them again is pretty easy. Usually it comes down to, if it's the Vandal dome, it's just a ring, and you take the ring and screw that into the wall, and then the other two components just spin on there pretty nice. Again, that license plate camera that just showed right there. Equipment room, 16 channel view of all of your cameras. And then mounting and locations. A couple of things to consider as you're getting your system set up. And really this comes down to just your DVR placement. Consider power outlets, airflow, water protection, space for a monitor, cables to run, to home run to DVR, and a spot to mount your power supply box. Again here, this will pop up. With the mounting ring of that Vandal dome I was telling you about. Here in a second. Hey Rex, how are you there? Let's see. How to adjust headlight glare, taillight glare, but still pick up the plates at night. That's a great question. I think the biggest thing is height when it comes to that. If you've got a little bit more height to that camera, it should offset some of that glare. Because and it's tough too, right? Because these new LED headlights, they've got so much power to them that they also give you a little bit more up. But I'd say, just off the top of my head, I'd probably say your, the height of where you're mounting that camera is going to be the biggest thing. And my dad, Rick, he should be on here on the chat. If he's got any other things, he can feel free to jump into. Monty, POA system, getting water in the waterproof bullet cameras. Do you have any recommendation? Gosh, again, I think my dad might have some tricks to that I don't have right off the top of my head. But there's some different type of like rescue tape. You can find that on Amazon, and even just getting creative with placement. I think those are going to be your biggest benefits with some of those. But you're right. I mean, just some of those PoE cameras, the housings on them, they're a little rough. I remember when we had, some older housings like that, we'd get water in them sometimes, which would create corrosion or issues with cameras. And, I think it just depends on placement and then figuring out how to seal it the best that you can. And a license plate, my dad just shot me a text. I don't think that he's on the chat, but just shot me a text and said, you're, just changing the camera out and going to a license plate camera. That's probably your best bet for sure. Okay, as far as cable goes, install your BNC coax into your power supply, and yeah, that's it's pretty much straightforward. I know I'm getting kind of close on time, so I'm going to just jump into a couple FAQs, and then again keep the questions coming in, and I'll bounce back and forth to these questions as I finish up here. So as far as how to back up the device, I think we talked about that. You can back it up to a USB or screencast on your phone. What do I need to get video on my smartphone? Port forward, it's just port 80 and 8000 to DVR. What are common problems? The main issues we see when it comes to cameras and DVRs is like we're hearing here on the thread. It's either water issues, it's connection issues, or it's high power line interference. So if you've got high power coming in, then sometimes you'll have some issues there. Do I need motion cameras to record? Again, no. The DVR will recognize it, and that just needs to be set up, and the parameters need to be set up by the operator. Coax, can I use the existing cable? Yes, you can use the existing cable. Any computer or TV monitor, as far as a monitor goes, all the monitors out there now are 1080p or better. You can find some fantastic deals, I'm sure, with Black Friday and things coming up. And then you can view it on the smartphone. And as far as recording, what we're seeing now on recording, you're anywhere from 30 to 60 days plus. With the size hard drive that you have, and the compression now with these new DVRs is so much better. So anywhere from 30 to 60 days. So that's pretty much it as far as presentation goes. I've got a couple minutes here before I'll jump off. This last slide shows my contact information. Again, my name's Dave. My phone number is 801-750-5666. And then my email is dave@turbodvr.com. So feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you might have. I'm more than happy to help however I can. And let's see if I can drop. Yeah, so that's just my contact info there. Feel free to grab that and reach out. Let me just make sure I got all these other questions. Martin, what cameras are you using that work well in high pressure automatics with extensive overspray? Looks like my dad's jumped in on that one. So yeah, really that vandal-proof dome, Martin, I think is your best bet. And just keeping, it's that overspray in the hard water spots that kind of block it up. So just making sure to keep those lenses clean. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate that. Thank you, Kimberly. It's been fun being on here with you. And like I say, feel free to let me know if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to help however I can. Yeah, thanks so much, Kleen-Rite, for the opportunity to do this. And again, just wanted to mention that free shipping through 11/27. Just make sure to use code FSMC20. Thanks again, everybody, and have a fantastic day.